everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dear Sam Live. Thanks for joining me. If you're here and watching, please feel free to write your city and state in the comments. I'd love to know where our audience is from this week. That's been really fun to see. Please feel free also to write any of your questions in the comments as we're live. Of course, for our folks that are listening to this after our live recording or on our podcast, you're welcome to email questions to me at dearsam@ladybug-design.com. So let's get started. So Dear Sam, as you know, is a show and a place where we can talk about personal branding, interview strategies, career development, and all things professional growth related. This week, what I wanted to talk to you about was the process of keyword mapping and how critical keyword mapping is in not only getting by the human screeners in your job searches, but also in making it successfully through those algorithms in those applicant tracking systems, or ATS. All right, so let's get started. For many of you, you may have heard about keywords, and sometimes I get calls from people that ask me, do I know the keywords to put in a resume? You know, are there these magic keywords? In fact, I think there's even a book out there called Magic Keywords, unfortunately. There really aren't any magic keywords. You know, keywords simply represent the skills, experiences, abilities, and credentials that your target audience, so the hiring managers or recruiters that you're trying to attract, are looking for in a candidate. So everybody is going to have different keywords based on what types of opportunities you're looking for and your own personal experiences. Now, I'm going to relate an exercise to you on how to define the keywords to put in your resume, but don't beware, I have a printout that I can send to you if you email me at dearsam@ladybug-design.com and simply ask for the keyword exercise or keyword mapping exercise. I'm more than happy to send you a PDF describing exactly what I'm about to explain, okay? So, when you're beginning to write your resume, the first thing you have to do is figure out who your audience is. If you don't know who your audience is, and that is, you know, what types of industries, what types of positions, my audience is going to be seeking what kind of message. You have to define that before you can even put fingers to keyboard or pen to paper. When I have clients that also are struggling to define their next step, I often ask them to send me a good couple of handfuls of job postings of interest. Now, sometimes they'll make the mistake of just sending me titles of positions, and that does me very little good. Every position you want to apply for is going to be a little bit different, even if they carry the same title. So what you really want to do is pull job postings where you can read the full description of the position, not just looking at the title, and definitely not just looking at the requirements, because the requirements for a job are often so bare bones that umpteen scores of people could actually quote unquote qualify for that job. The way that you're really qualified for an opportunity is based on your ability to send the right message, a keyword rich message. So let's look at exactly how to send that keyword rich message. So I recommend taking this off the computer. So once you've found a good couple handfuls of positions that you're looking to apply for or kind of represent your target market, print them out and put them all over your table. I recommend, if you have a nice big table like this, scatter them all over and start reading them and become really familiar with the language. And then I want you to actually take a piece of paper, and if you feel better typing this like I did, and you'll see my little type sheet here, you can, or you can write it out. So what I want you to do is actually type kind of the title or the organization of what the job posting is that you're keyword mapping, and read through that job posting. And when you get to a specific skill or experience or credential or requirement that you feel is really important, write it down. So you'll see, if you could read this list, I have 7 positions keyword mapped on these 2 pages, okay? So just imagine this is a long sheet of paper, and you'll see I probably have maximum about 10 keywords per position. There's no magic number, but I don't want you to highlight every single nuance of the position, because if you end up with a list of 100 different things you need to highlight, and you attempt to highlight that on your resume, that's going to be the opposite of highlighting, okay? We really need to kind of drill in and focus on our message. So I have, after looking at those 7 or so postings, I have a list of what my target audience is looking for. So if I could emulate all of these things in my resume, I should be successful. So granted, your target, your message that you're trying to send, it has to be narrow enough where you're seeing some redundancy in the keywords. If you're keyword mapping an accountant position, and then an HR manager position, and then an event planner position, obviously the messages that each of those audiences are going to be looking for are going to be completely different. So you can't write an effective resume to that diverse a group. So when you do this keyword mapping exercise, make sure that you are seeing some redundancy in the keywords that you're listing, because that will really show you that your target is aligned well. You might identify through this exercise that you have a couple of outliers that really you shouldn't be spending your time on, because you can't represent those experiences in your own background. So let's say now we have these 7 positions that all kind of go in line with one another. I believe the keyword mapping exercise that I did for this particular client was all around program management, outreach and engagement, that type of thing. So I ended up with this pretty long list of keywords. Then for your purpose, especially if you're off the computer, this works really well. I would fold your paper in half, and then you essentially end up with 2 sides of the paper. One, which is your master list of keywords that your audience wants to see in order for them to react in the way you want. In other words, if they see these things demonstrated in your resume, you are much more likely to get a call for an interview. But you may not, and you probably do not, possess everything on this side of the paper. So what I want you to do is to go through this list and actually transfer, you can't see what I'm doing, but transfer the skills and experiences and abilities and requirements to the right side of the paper that you actually possess. So the left side is what is wanted and the right side is what you have, okay? There are going to be some things that remain on the left side, and that's okay. We're not all perfectly qualified. In fact, I don't think anyone's really perfectly qualified for an interview that they get. We're looking for around that 70 to 80% mark in my estimation to really be able to demonstrate that we have the skills and past record of success to do the job, okay? So the left side of the paper is what is wanted, the right side is what you have. Now, there may be some things that you kind of sort of have, like maybe a master's is preferred and you're in a master's program right now. So maybe put that on the crease, okay? So you end up with this amazing, helpful list of keywords. The left side is what your audience wants. The right side is what you have. The things in the middle are things you need to tread carefully around. that will inform your messaging strategy. For instance, if every job you're applying for prefers a master's and you just have a bachelor's, I would definitely want to know that that is going to be a potential stumbling block, so that when I get to an interview, I'm prepared for that question. Because if it is a key requirement and you don't have it and you get an interview, you better be prepared to answer the question of why that doesn't matter or how you're still qualified for the opportunity. Of course, before you get to the interview, this keyword mapping exercise really illustrates what you need to put into your resume to gain traction. These words and phrases should be infused throughout your resume, top to bottom. This is the language that you need to be speaking. So if we speak English, consider this French, okay? And these words and this language and this message really needs to be put into your resume to show that you really are qualified for the opportunity. Without that, a human or an ATS, an applicant tracking system, won't see the relevance of your candidacy. So while it's scarier to have a computer use algorithms and search our resumes for certain keywords, the process is really not unlike what a human does. What a good hiring manager and a good recruiter and screener does is look at a resume, and in their initial 4 to 7 seconds, they make the determination of whether you are qualified to be brought in for an interview. They make sure they're not seeing any potential disqualifiers, and they look to see that that message is on point. Much the same as an applicant tracking system has these predefined keywords in their system, and they automatically search the content of your resume for those keywords to see how relevant your candidacy is versus another competitor. Same process, just a little scarier when we have an ATS doing it, because we don't have a human's objective viewpoint in the mix. So this keyword mapping exercise really is a great way to make sure that the content of your message is streamlined and on point. Again, if you need a description, I already have a keyword mapping exercise printout that I can email to you. Just pop your email address in the comments and I'm happy to send that to you after our show. I'll take any questions whatsoever that you have on personal branding, keywords, making sure that your content is relevant for your search. And feel free to share any other job search successes or lack thereof with me and see if I can shed some insight into that. If you're not live here, you're welcome to email that to me at dearsam@ladybug-design.com. Okay? One of the questions that I had someone email me earlier was about whether they should apply for a job when they weren't fully qualified. And I get that question a lot because some people think they really need to be a perfect fit to apply. As I mentioned, I tried to bring it up earlier in my chat in this session, you don't have to be perfectly qualified to apply for and potentially interview for and probably secure that job. So I definitely want, when you look at a job posting, for you to meet a lot of the requirements, but more than the requirements, I want you to be able to emulate your history, what you've done in your jobs. I want you to be able to emulate what's in the job posting of interest with what you've done in your career. So it's not about saying the requirements for the position are a 4-year degree, 5+ years of customer service experience, the ability to communicate well in written form, and maybe a self-starter attitude, right? Some of requirements are as bare bones as that. It's not about meeting that. Once everybody meets those requirements, you're all even again in that job market. So I want to make sure that when you're seeing the job posting, you're looking at the description of the role you would actually be performing much more closely than those bare bone requirements, because that's what the hiring manager is going to be looking to see in your own background, okay? That's the success that you can really have if you make sure that your message is on point and that you're not just meeting the requirements, which are the basics, okay? I see we have a couple of requests for the keyword exercise. That's great. And then we have a question that says, everyone says I should be careful with my social profiles when applying for jobs. Do employers really look at your Facebook page when you apply? Yes, they do. That's very common. I'd say it's probably depleted a little bit in how common it is, but Googling a candidate is not an uncommon practice. I've had experience myself Googling candidates when I've been hiring and seeing what's out there, and I try not to be jaded by what I see, but you never know, even on a subconscious level, how that could impact someone's view of that candidate. I actually had a situation once where a mom was trying to help her college graduate daughter get a position, and the daughter wasn't fully invested in the search. I think she was enjoying some post-graduation time off, and the mom wasn't appreciating a lot of that time off, I think, spent in the mom's house still. So the mom came to me and said, can you help? And part of what I do is I often work with entry-level folks just starting their career. And as part of that, you better believe that I, as a resume writer and as a branding specialist, am looking at that person's digital profile. So I'm looking at what Google has, I'm looking at LinkedIn, I'm looking at Facebook, because what I'm doing is trying to brand that person to be successful. Part of ensuring their success is making sure that they're not doing anything to hinder their success, because of course that's going to come back possibly on a lack of effectiveness of a resume when really it's something else impacting that. So in this particular situation, I had to present in a discreet manner how the daughter was truly damaging her candidacy based on the photos she had on Facebook, which were available for everybody to see. I won't go into what they were, but they were not friendly to her professional candidacy. I don't care if you have a personal Facebook page when you're in a job search, but batten down the hatches and make everything as private as possible so that none of who you are as a person impacts how you're seen as a professional, because sometimes they are separate things and really should be, and it's nobody's business to evaluate what you do outside of work until you make it a choice to be their business by developing a friendship or letting someone know, what you might enjoy as a hobby, etc. So absolutely, definitely take care when you're in a search and when you're not in a search even, to make sure that everything that you put out there is appropriate for any audience to see, whether that's a potential employer, whether that's a boss that might look at your profile after you've been hired. So just be careful, better safe than sorry. So I hope that this information has been helpful in learning how to keyword map to get through not only human screeners, but those tricky algorithms in the applicant tracking systems. Again, for anyone watching live or watching after, feel free to email me at dearsam@ladybug-design.com. Request the keyword mapping exercise or pop it in the comments. Even if you're watching this not live, we always see those comments and we're happy to respond at that time. So thanks everybody for tuning in this week. Short and sweet, another short episode for you to help you along in your search. If you have any suggestions or questions that you'd like for me to address next Thursday at 12:15 Eastern, again, email them to us. We'll be happy to take your questions. Thanks everybody. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.